What's up, everyone? All right. This was sent to me by Luke. This is when the gender thing really gets out of control. This is disturbing. Listen to some of this stuff.
School district let it happen. So he's going to the girls' restroom with...
This guy has a son named James, and this video starts off by him saying the school district is letting his son go to the girls' restroom. I guess his son wants to be a girl, and his ex-wife is in full support of it, and this guy would like his son to remain his son and not become a daughter. But listen how the government and the schools get involved and intervene in this guy's family decisions as if he doesn't get to decide for his own child.
The girls and all of his authority figures were telling him that he was a girl, the teacher, the gym coach, the librarian.
So all the school personnel refer to him as a girl.
Police officers at school all just say he's a girl and treat him like a girl, call him by his girl's name, and I was the only one, me and his priest. The only ones who were telling him he was a girl.
So his father and his priest are telling him that he's a boy, because he's actually a boy. He has male genitalia. He was born as a male. He is a male currently.
So I told her it got increasingly strident about opposing this. So she beat me to the punch and went straight to court, filed a motion to modify, and now she seeks to terminate my parental rights because I will not affirm that my son's a girl.
So now the ex-wife wants to terminate him as the child's father because he won't acknowledge that his son is not a male, even though he is a male.
So I just want to tell you some of the things that Texas courts are doing. She has asked the court, and they're taking it very seriously. So I've spent, all told, from the time the divorce happened to now, $980,000, somewhere in that range. Okay, they're telling me
since his divorce, he spent $980,000. How is that possible in a free country? Because he won't acknowledge that his son is a girl.
It's going to take me another $1 million because it's going to go to the Supreme Court, no matter which way it goes. So the courts are taking this very seriously. She's asked the court to jail me if I actually use my son's name, call him James.
She's asked the court to put this guy, the son of her child, in a cage if he uses his son's name and calls him by it, James. If he says, James, come here, please, sir. Mr. James, you're my son. That she wants him put in a cage for that. Dude, that's a mental disease those people are going through with the gender thing. You're the gender is what you're born, man. You may want to be a female, and when you become an adult and you're doing everything on your own, become a female. That's up to you. But until then, you're a minor, dude.
She's asked the courts to jail me if I use male pronouns with him.
Jail him if he uses male pronouns.
She says that's a form of child abuse. I'm not affirming him as a girl.
Calling him by his name and using male pronouns is a child abuse in this sick lady's mind.
She has asked them to jail me if I cut his hair. In fact, she just filed paperwork. She filed another motion. I got to go back to court. Go back to court on this 6 times just since July. I got to go back to court again because I cut my son's hair. They're trying to hyper-feminize him before we go to a jury trial. So they want to let his hair grow long, and I just found it nice. The judge has said that I have to cut a hairstyle that's gender neutral. And I have to get permission from an amicus attorney before I do it. It costs me about $2,000 every time I cut his hair.
He has to get permission from an amicus attorney. I don't even know what that means. Before he can cut his son's hair. Because they want it to grow long so he looks more like a female, when in fact he's a male.
So I found a real nice picture of Charlize Theron with short hair, and I just give him a marine high and tight. Okay. So they're getting real upset about that, and so they're taking me back to court on that. The worst thing...
So they're taking him back to court again because he cut his own child's hair.
So, is that in the state of Texas, there are no exceptions to child support. So I pay maximal child support around $30,000 a year. In addition to medical.
$30,000 a year in addition, and medical. That's more than I make a year. This guy pays in child support.
So the courts are now, the official position of the court is that I have to pay for the chemical castration and sexual mutilation of my child and sex changes. And they are fully prepared to imprison me if I do not.
The court's fully prepared to imprison this guy if he doesn't pay for his child to have his genitals turned into the different. Oh my Lord, this can't be real.
I'm currently under an injunction from the 255th court from attempting to convince my son that he's a boy. I'm not allowed to do.
Attempting to convince his son that he's a boy. They're saying he's not allowed to do that. You think this gender stuff has gone too far or what? By the way, I want to say 30 to 40% of people who are doing that stuff, I believe the stat is correct, are committing suicide. So it's not like they're extremely happy or they're doing it because they're happy. And again, I don't care what you do, but when you look at the stats and almost half of the people doing it are committing suicide, there's a further, deeper mental thing to it.
Yeah. I almost went to jail for it already. Okay? I'll give you some examples of where this causes me some problems. Number one, it's a prior restraint on parental speech. Federal courts have held since the Revolutionary War to this day, prior restraints by the government of any form are totally.
Prior restraint, if you want to get a good idea what that's all about, go to Horizon City News Service. He's got a video about it.
Illegal and unconstitutional. Supreme law prohibits it. Family courts do it every day. So that's number one. It's a prior restraint on speech. Second, it prohibits me from teaching my son traditional Christian teachings on sexuality and gender.
That would be a violation of his freedom of religion.
I can't do that. That means I can't let my son even go to Sunday school at my church because we teach out of the book of Genesis, which has men and women. All right? Third thing is, his twin brother, Jude, is completely confused. He asked me one day, we'd been out, I'm teaching him how to hunt rabbits with an Apache hunting stick. That's how I learned how to hunt with a stick. So we were out practicing throwing sticks. They were filthy dirty. We came in, we got in the shower. Two boys are naked there. Points down at his brother and says, how could it be a girl? Why does she make me call him a girl? He's got a penis. And I said, son, I can't legally answer that question.
I can't legally answer you. Think about this, people. They're trying to manipulate gender through litigation.
So every night I just read in the book of Genesis up to the creation of man and woman. That's their bedtime story. The courts have actually done that. They prohibited me from presenting him as a boy to anybody that knows him as a girl. That means I can't present him in any public forum because I don't know who would know him as a girl. I've already been chased off playgrounds. All right? Finally, the courts have taken this so seriously that I'm the one with the burden of proof.
Oh, burden of proof is on the victim of them. People, the courts are so unbelievably corrupt. It's disturbing. We need judicial reform, and to the languages, it needs to be in plain English, and it shouldn't cost $1 million to defend yourself. This is disgusting. This is not America, people. This is disturbing. The burden of proof is on this guy who wants to call his son James by his name and introduce him as his son because he's a boy.
I have to prove that I'm not harming my son by not saying that he's a girl. All right? So what I've had to do is they brought in a bunch of, I don't want to use that word, they brought in a very effeminate male counselor psychologist who looks like he was floating in his shoes a little bit. He got up there on the stand and he said that my son would...
That was a gay remark.
...deterministically kill himself if I said he was a boy. My son would deterministically kill himself if I said he was a boy. They have a flood of experts.
Deterministically kill himself if he told him that his gender is what his gender was.
Enemies on the totalitarian side of this cold civil war that we're in have provided her experts essentially for free. But I have to pay for them. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't point that out. Her name is Ann Georgia, listening. Well, she's a pediatrician in Kentucky, Texas. And everybody's always surprised by that. But one of the things that we're going to have to come to grips with, and I tell this to a lot of people I talk to, we do not live we are in a post-constitutional society.
Yeah, he called that for sure. I haven't seen past this, so I'm watching it with you now.
The government is not constrained by the Constitution. It's only constrained by the threat of force by a citizen. So, what that means is professional organizations like the American Psychological Association, the American Academy of Pediatricians, of which he's a member, are fully on board with transgender child abuse. It's a 3-step process. My son's already enrolled. You can Google this. Genesis Clinic, Genesis Clinic. Yes, they perverted the name of the Holy Book. Believe me, that was done on purpose to humiliate you. They do that. So the Genesis Clinic does sex change operations on children right there in Dallas, Texas, out of the Children's Hospital. 3-step process. I call it 3 steps to hell. Number 1, they socially transition the child. That's what they've tried to do to my son. Here's the thing, though. My son is a red-blooded Texas boy. And he will be damned before he will wear a dress in front of his dad. So he has never presented to me as a girl. And this is one of the reasons the left have seized on my case as one of the most important transgender cases in the country. Because we have a boy with an abnormal gender expression with a crazy-ass ex-wife and a normal gender expression with a dad. And if they can go to court and make that boy go down the road to a sexual transition, they can take any one of your kids and do it to you. If you don't believe me, you need to look at the United Kingdom, where I used to live. You need to look at Canada. And they're taking children right off school playgrounds. There's a kid in Canada playing like he was Batgirl, because he liked the motorcycle from the movie. Playing like he was Batgirl. Told the parents they had to affirm him as a girl and begin to dress him as a girl. They refused. They don't have their kid anymore. Okay? I know of a case, Walt Heyer, who's a former transgender. He actually sexually transitioned and had to transition back. Because when he got Jesus Christ, thank God, he realized it was just a costume. He wasn't really a woman. So he's going around telling everybody this is nuts. Walt has been contacted by a man with 4 daughters in Oregon. His ex-wife transitioned all 3 of them to boys and is trying to do the 4th one, and he's fighting with everything he has to stop it. And he's got no power to stop it. Here's why.
I don't know, man. I don't think minors should be allowed to get sex changes. You want to change your gender when you're an adult? Go ahead. But basically, it sounds like the wife and the courts and the government are deciding what gender this guy's son is, and he has no say in it. And he's being threatened with violence and kidnapping and being caged. If he dare cuts his son's hair, calls his son by his legal name, etc.
Power is not... I love that you guys talk about the law and what the law is, right? Everybody thinks the law are statutes. Statutes are not law, right? The simple fact of the matter is that law is a much broader concept than statutes, right? There's a lot of things that are illegal that are not in statutes, and a lot of things in statutes that just aren't illegal. If you're going 5 miles over the speed limit and you get a ticket, don't you feel ripped off? You really weren't breaking the law, because that is just not the custom of the people of Texas. And that's why we have juries, to apply our customary understanding of statutes. Right? Your customs combined with the statutes make the law. Well, it turns out in family courts, the opinions of professional bodies have the effect of common law. Here's how it works.
Which is nonsense.
In my case. So the left are absolute experts at taking over organizations. They've taken over the American Psychological Association. It took them about 10 years. One time they actually had a gay riot where people were injured at one of their meetings in Chicago. It was taken over by force and by democratic and bureaucratic processes. They changed gender identity disorder into dysphoria. Dysphoria is a category they invented, which means you are of a normal human type, but your society rejects you, and your source of problem is from the rejection of your normal human type. Gender dysphoria means you can be born a girl in a boy's body. Turns out there's no neurological evidence for that when you go look for it. I'm a statistician. There's no neurological evidence for that when you go look for it. There's literally no scientific evidence for this belief. It doesn't matter. They put out a policy which is created by bureaucratic mechanisms. All psychologists in America who are a member of this association are now obligated to follow their diagnostic protocol. So I get into a custody evaluation. Now I have a custody evaluator who's now evaluating my sons and me again. He's following those policies. And when he makes those recommendations, and they're in line with that policy, he is invulnerable to any sanction by his professional body. Okay? And when he tells that family court judge, Jeff's son has to be treated like a girl and called a girl and affirmed as a girl, or he's gonna kill himself, the judge is simply going to take that and put that on me as a legal obligation. And if I don't, this is how they get around it. There's no statute for it. They'll do it by criminal contempt. Okay? So they can create law. Professional bodies actually create law in the courts. They have to force law. This is true.
It's the judge not following his oath to the Constitution. That's what's happening there.
It's really shocking. I mean, it's true of pediatrics, medicine, mental health, accounting even. The pronouncements of the American Society of Accountants have the effect of law in fraud cases. Right? So this is really important. We have to start thinking more broadly.
This guy's really exposing the corruption and the techniques they use to get around actual law and to actually do the correct thing and the righteous thing for the people. They've figured out 1,000,001 ways to backdoor you, to get what they need. And then they use the facade of a justice system as if you're getting some type of fair due process.
What the law is. But I can tell you, you think it's not happening here in Texas? These Texas courts, these family courts, are as lawless as any other court. And they're perfectly happy to condemn my son to a life of banishment and despair. And if you think my son's the only one, let me tell you something. They are coming for your kids. If you look at this long train of abuses, I'm using that phrase from a very famous document some of you may know. A long train of abuses, all aimed at one thing, the destruction of the traditional family. You think they're not coming for yours? You know that right now, there's a bill, and it's amazing how this works. In 15 state legislatures, simultaneously on the same day, okay, identical mental health bills were introduced. When I was at the state capitol giving my speech, the number one issue for all the lobbying groups, conservative pro-family lobbying groups in this state, was defeating that bill. Their intentions are to train school teachers to psychologically evaluate your children, or transgender or gender issues. They have an online form they want the child to fill out once a semester. Inquires into your sleeping habits, your sexual habits, your sister's dating habits, what kind of clothes you buy your kids, and what kind of food you feed your kids. Looking for anything they can do to take your kids.
That's the truth, man. Kidnapping people's kids is big business for them too. Plus, they do disgusting stuff with them too.
That showed up on the same day in 15 states.
Wow.
Now, there was something else they did, and this is another trick you need to be aware of here in Texas, but it also happened in all these other states. 10% of all the bills introduced this year in the Texas legislature involve training teachers to psychologically evaluate students. They're betting that...
You have your kid in public school right now? Think about that.
At least one of them will get through. Simultaneously to this, Pelosi, in the federal House, introduced H.R. 5, the Equality Act. Don't you love how they name these bills the precise opposite of what they do? The Equality Act will put you and you and you and you all under the same injunctions that I'm under. If a school declares that
equal tyranny for all,
your son is a girl, and you refuse to do that, they can take your kids. It powers.
If the school decides your kid is the gender that he isn't, they could put you in jail for not agreeing with them. What in the F?
Any federal court to do that. It's going to have unanimous support by Democrats in the House, is what I've heard. It won't pass the Senate. But what if we didn't have the Senate? We live in a post-constitutional society. You cannot depend on...
That could not be more true. We do live in a post-constitutional society.
The courts to strike that down. Okay? So I just wanted to let you know what's happening to my son. You can go to savejames.com. We have a website where I've published all the court, a lot of stuff's hard to believe. I totally get it. I've published all the court documents, her petition, even depositions. Everything's out there. You can go look at it. Don't believe me. But I wanted you to understand that we're not necessarily, a lot of times we talk about we're fighting for liberty, we're fighting for justice. Folks, we ain't fighting for that. We're fighting for a father. We're fighting for kids. We're fighting for people. And they are coming for you. They came for Lavoy, they're coming for my son, coming for a lot of people. So think about what you can do and how you can stop them. Listen to these folks.
There you go. That guy, I'm not religious, but I don't care if you are. You could tell that he's not a dumb guy. He's no dummy. He wants to call his son by his name. He wants to use the pronouns that are correspond with his genitalia. And the school system and the ex-wife and the courts and everyone else is willing to use violence against this guy and put him in a cage if he calls his son by his name, if he cuts his son's hair, if he introduces him to anybody as the gender that he actually is. Those people are ruining that kid's life for their agenda. That, if you're an adult, do whatever the hell you want. But now you're involving kids and you're parading kids around on TV as cross-dressers. It's getting disgusting, man. I'm glad we got rid of our cable box like 6 months ago. I don't even miss that thing. I really don't. My wife misses watching Under Deck or Below Deck. And there was this really hot blonde on Below Deck who was from Australia. And she made the word boat into 2 syllables. She was like, I have to get back to the boat. And I was like, yeah, baby, say boat. And then they would show her like getting dressed sometimes. Oh. Okay, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. Good job, guy, whoever you are. Thanks, Luke, for sending this. Blah, 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 blah. John's Coin Rings on Etsy. I also have jerky there. I'm also going to do pigtails. What's a pigtail? Go to my Etsy store and find out. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Peace and tranquility. Bye.